Hey, Toastmasters or Dawnies, y'all let me know which name you like. Dawnie to the max here. Welcome back to my channel. Let's talk about how I could have been an alias. Now, I'm going to have to refer to my notes because this story is so convoluted. It should be a movie. Somebody should help me write a screenplay and turn this into a movie because this makes absolutely no sense. How I could have been an alias. Well, let's start with my birth certificate's all jacked up because my father married my mother under an alias name. Okay, let's see. As I said, I got to refer to my notes. So my father was born a certain name. I don't want to disclose all that. Y'all can figure that out one day because I know people are nosy and they know how to figure stuff out. But my father was born under a certain name. And I was told he had changed his name because he was dodging the war. But as I gotten older, I found out the real story. Let's see. So we already talked about him being born one name. When he was a teenager, he ran away from home because, well, that's none of my business. I won't disclose why he ran away from home, but I get it. And he states when he got to the airport, he saw a name of a city. So he made that his first name. And then there was a famous musician that he liked, and he used that famous musician's last name. So city, famous musician, first and last name, a whole new name. I don't know how things worked in the late 60s, early 70s. Yes, I'm giving away my age. I don't care. But yeah, he was able to get on a plane at 15 with some name he just made up on the spur of the moment. And people wonder why I have daddy issues. With that said, let me referring to my notes again. Okay. My mom says that they had worked at this, I don't know what kind of company they worked at, but evidently it was a good paying company. And they worked at the same place. Let's see, what does my notes say? And basically my mother's version is that basically my father wore her down until she went out with him. Woo! No comment. Eventually they did get married under that name. Yeah, they got married under the airport city name and the famous musician name. They got married. So my birth certificate has that name as my father's name. As I stated before, my parents had a good paying job. However, my dad wanted to become a musician. And he's very talented. He had his name all in the papers, what have you. Wait, his name? No. When he became a musician, he changed his name again. So that's the name that's all in the papers about him being this famous musician for that city. According to my mother, it was stated that I was a planned child. They discussed having me and what they were going to do and yada, yada, yada. However, 6 months later, they got a divorce. My mom's side of the story is she came home from work. My dad's playing his instrument. I'm sitting on his lap while he's smoking weed. I'm 6 months old. And my head is bobbing like this. So that's why they got a divorce. My dad's side of the story is my mom was dating someone else, and that's why they got a divorce. There may be some truth to that, because when I look at old baby pictures of myself, I'm like, okay, I see my dad, and I'm a certain age, and I see this other guy, and I'm the same age. So there may be some truth in that. I don't know. You know, parents don't disclose everything to their children. Huh. Okay. Moving right along. Hope you guys are keeping count with these name changes. I'll give you a hint. I'm on name change number 4. Some years later, I think I was more in my formative years. I didn't really see my dad between the age of 4 and 9. We'll just put it like that. Anyhow, around age 9, he got into this religious group. I'm not going to disclose the religious group because why? Anyway, he got into this religious group and he changed his name again. I don't even know why he changed his name, but he did. He has affinity for changing names, I guess. Yeah, I gotta look at my notes. I think this is the 5th or 6th name. I'm getting confused now. All I know, in my early 20s, there was some stint where I stopped talking to him. I don't know why. There's usually a reason. Anyhow, during that time, he had changed his name again, and he was actually dating a woman I had just... Basically, how I got back in touch with my father is that this woman called me and she wanted to surprise him on his birthday, and I'm like, and where'd you come from? Seemed like every time my dad changed his name, he had a new woman. That's none of my business. What I can say is that name has somewhat stuck since my 20s, even though he put a twist on it. So we can call that maybe 5 B name change. Now, as far as I go, where technically I could have been an alias because I would have had 2 names, 2 social securities, what have you. But how that won't work anymore is because when my mom was helping me get to Europe, when I was a preteen, she had to go to the Social Security office. And she had to give them this whole long story of what my name is supposed to be. Yeah, when did I find out my real name? Well, that had all I know is I had one name since I was a child. So evidently I knew my name from when I was 1. You know, when you come into consciousness. But let me just read this so I won't ramble. Okay, so background story about going to Europe. My mom's going to the Social Security office to get a passport. However, my name is a certain last name, but my birth certificate is a whole nother name. And my mother has a new husband with the name that's on my birth certificate. I know I'm not giving too much details, but y'all try to follow along. When my mom's at the Social Security office, she's telling them this whole long, convoluted story of all these name changes and how my father married my mother an alias name because he was dodging the war, but my name is really this, so she found out later, yada, yada, yada. And the passport lady was like, okay. I understand all of that, but why is your last name the name that's on her birth certificate? And as I already stated, my mother remarried and had that name. Somehow my mother got the passport information situated. So I'm officially legal now. I guess I've been legal since I was a preteen. And it's funny because, as you guys know, I'm waiting on my disability. So when I go to the Social Security office and they ask, what's your father's last name? And I'm like, I don't know what you guys have on file because my birth certificate says one thing and my passport says another thing. So you tell me what my father's name is on file. But somehow they have that correct. Maybe it's because of the passport they got it cleared. But this makes no sense, but this is real life. Y'all out there, be careful who you sleep with. You just may have a child by them and ruin their life. Now you would think the story would stop there. Let's go back to college days. My dad came back into my life during my college days, and at that time I was living with my grandparents. And one day I will explain why I lived with my grandparents, because even though I love my mommy, she had some issues, and we'll see when I get up the courage to explain what happened between my teen years into adulthood. One day. It's coming. With that said, my dad came over to my grandparents because I was going to go over his house for the weekend. And my grandparents are calling him yada 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 whoop whoop. And I'm like, where'd you guys get that name from? Have y'all kept count? I think we're on 7. I'm like, where'd you guys get that name from? And they're like, that's the name we knew him by when. And I'm like, and that's not even the name on my birth certificate. I don't know how long my parents dated before they got married, but as Trinity J says, bruh. Oh. So I had to tell my grandparents what his real name was and what name he goes by now. So yeah, I could have been an alias with the birth certificate name and all these other names. The only problem about me being an alias or working for the CIA or working undercover is people have told me my face has not changed. People from, like, I can be walking down the street if I'm back in LA and somebody's like, hey, don't you remember woo woo woo? And I'm like, no, I don't remember you. They remember me from like grade school, and I'm like, I probably don't remember you because I didn't like you. But that's a whole nother story. But yeah, if my face didn't look the same as when I was a little girl, I probably could have worked undercover with all these aliases I have in my back pocket. I just realized one thing. For years, I would ask my father to help me rectify my birth certificate. Would he do it? Anyway, thank you for watching Dawnie to the Max. Please like, subscribe, and share. And ding! Don't forget the notification bell. You know, story time is every Wednesday, and sprinkle in some other stuff every now and then. But I'll see you guys next Wednesday. Bye.